following program is available in high definition on Channel 700. This program is designed and produced by the community with the support of TV Cogeco.
Welcome to Council Matters. This is the program that looks at what matters to Oakville with three residents of Oakville in the first half of the show, and in the second half of the show, three members of council join me to discuss how council can make a difference. And together, these two segments, I hope, show you how council matters in keeping Oakville Canada's most livable town. Today with me is Doug Greco, who's the president of Catch Restaurants or Entertainment?
Catch Hospitality.
Catch Hospitality. And Sharlene Plewman, who's the executive director of the Downtown Oakville Business Improvement Area, BIA for short. And Nick Bourikas, who is the chair of that same body. Welcome and thanks for being here. So the question of the day, I think, is how low can tax increases go? We've been, I think, understandably bragging, Council and I, about how this year's tax increase is only 0.7%, way less than 1%. It's one of the lowest tax increases in the GTA, and it's the lowest tax increase in Oakville's in the last 15 years. And that's part of a larger program that we've been on for the last 8 years to drive down the annual increase in taxes. And another way of expressing our success in that area is, and I want to tell you a little story about that. I was speaking to a group of businessmen, about 150 businessmen, and businessmen and businesswomen, and I said, I bragged that in the 4 years before I became mayor, the total property tax levy increased an average of 7% a year for those 4 years. And many people thought that might not be sustainable. In the first term that I had, 8 years ago, we got that down to an average of 5% a year for the increase in the total property tax levy, and that's a slightly different metric than the tax increase because it includes other things. And then in this term of council, we've got that under 3% a year on average. So 753 is our direction, and people tell me that that's a good direction, they like it. So I said that to this luncheon, and it was a bit of a energetic and friendly luncheon, and a fellow called out from one of the corner tables, that's outstanding, we got to keep you so that next term we'll get 7531. And another guy on the other side of the room sang out, forget that, we need him for 2 terms, so we'll get it to 0. So the really long story to frame the question, is 0 where everyone wants to go, or are there things that we want to keep adding to our town? Our tax level is now at a point where I think we could go into keep it as it is maintenance mode. And one of the things I want to make sure that we stay alive to is that we're not overlooking important things. And the infrastructure that we're talking about in public, all of the stuff we're talking about for downtown Oakville, all of the things that we have to do around renewal and replacement, we've funded that. We have, our tax level works perfectly to serve all of that. In combination with our development charges. So, is there something we're missing? Are there things we're not that we need to look after? Doug, in Bronte, as I look at your harbor or your harbors in the old harbor area, what's your sense there? Is there something that we need to do, or anywhere in Oakville? Don't confine yourself to Bronte, because I know that you live throughout the town.
Well, thank you for having me, and I certainly believe, like in the Bronte Harbour area, we could definitely do some revitalization. I think that there's a lot of things that are lacking down there. I think that the sandy beach across the harbour there could have a great development, whether that be more of a restaurant down there or a bandstand or something to bring more people down to that area would be great. I think extending the walkways around there, making it a little bit more beautiful for people would certainly help attract a lot more people down to our area. But, you know, your whole question about tax levies and where we should be going, I'm a big supporter of keeping it where it is. I think you're moving in the right direction, and livable Oakville has a cost, and it's something I'm prepared to pay and be happy living here with families and having businesses. So I think you should definitely keep it where it is, and not look at reduction.
Okay. What about so the 3% level for the levy and an implicit kind of the kind of tax increase we had, which, you know, what you're going to feel on the residential side is 0.7%.
Right.
So around, it's somewhere between $5 and $7 per 100,000.
Right.
So you can do your own math in terms of what that means. Nick, what about in downtown Oakville? Or for that matter, I mean, don't you live in the northeast part of town?
Yes, I do.
So on a town-wide level, what's your sense?
Well, I'd like to speak to downtown Oakville.
Well, you can speak to it.
We have the cultural hub that we're hoping to be building sometime in the future. To my knowledge, I don't think we have any money set aside for that. And I think the cost is going to be $60 to $100 billion. So, question mark for me is, where's that money going to come from? I'm sure the town's going to do a great job from where it comes from, but it's in dire need of rejuvenation. Every place, because I do live in North Oakville, and I see everything's clean and bright and new and polished, and downtown is very tired. So we definitely need the funds down there.
Yeah. So on the paying for it, the replacement cost of it, we've long provided for. And then it really comes down to if we want more there, then council and I will have to find a way to pay for it. I don't have the magic solution yet, because I don't even know the amount or if there'll be an amount yet. But I can tell you what we did in the case of the promise to pay up to $130 million for the new hospital. We worked at developing new non-tax business revenue through our local utility, which we own and have never given up like some cities. And so through green energy projects, we will make enough money to carry the donation to the hospital, which is to say we have a huge unused debt capacity. We're driving down our public debt levels every year. And when we have offsetting revenue to carry debt, that's good debt because it's not paid for by the taxpayer. So we'll continue with that strategy to cover whatever we have to pay there. And of course, we will always have, if there's a compelling reason to use tax funds to support debt to build something, council will look at it. But we prefer this other strategy of using other people's money.
As citizens, we all prefer that.
It's a great business principle, right?
However, may I just expand a little bit? As far as tax rates are concerned, I'd love to see them go to zero or even less as a taxpayer.
The tax increases, you mean?
As far as tax increases go. However, the other side of the coin is deliverables, because there's one thing to say, okay, we're not going to raise taxes, we're not going to do anything, but then focusing on the deliverables is very important in the efficiency of, or the quality of the deliverables. So I think most residents would not be against modest tax increases, however, would prefer to see business initiatives like Oakville Hydro picking up the tab.
Yeah. Yes, and in fact, for 8 years, that's the direction we've been going. That's one of the ways we've been able to restrain tax increases. One of our boasts is that we've kept tax increases in the CPI track, and council and I believe that that's the sustainable path. Sharlene, you are in contact with 400 members of the downtown BIA. They're all active and energetic participants in Oakville's life. What are you hearing from them?
In terms of as a resident or as a business owner?
Either way.
Either way. I think that they are pleased to see that there's some discussion going on about using the taxes that we've built to this point to good use to help the residents to enjoy the downtown area.
But are they giving you feedback about stuff they think they need done that we haven't done? That's the, so I'm trying to surface stuff we haven't noticed yet.
Right. I think there are some things that they'd like us to focus on a little bit more. In the wintertime, now granted we had a very hard winter, but the snow removal did make it difficult for the customers coming to the businesses, cars getting in and out of the downtown, and so that's difficult for them to operate business. So I think they felt there was a need there that perhaps was misaddressed. In the summertime, you know, garbage removal, there's a need there that to keep the streets clean, inviting, and sanitary, to have garbage removal at the level that they feel is appropriate for them to do their business.
Yeah, I agree with both of those. In fact, I think the garbage removal applies year-round, even in winter. I think council and I are going to have to shift the service level in the downtown to go to snow removal rather than just clearing and shoving it to the side. And we also have to treat, you know, George and Dunn and the other feeder streets to Lakeshore. I think we need to treat them the same as Lakeshore. We're going to have to create a new category, basically. Work with me here. How about calling it the historic business district category? So we have three. I don't want anyone in the Kerr Village, the Kerr Street Village business area to feel left out of this remark, or the Bronte Village business area. And I've been casting about for a category name for these three key areas. How do you like historic business district?
I think there's some history tied to the word historic that some may not prefer that word.
Well, let's try a different way. Would you like special treatment?
Yes.
So help me come up with a special name, because we need a different category if we're going to do it.
You can name it whatever you want if you're going to treat us specially.
All right. Okay, well, what about you, Nick? Do you have any thoughts on other things we need to do to improve service?
I think Sharlene covered most of it.
Doug and Bronte, or anywhere else for that matter, what's your sense?
Well, I'm quite happy in Bronte. I think that the services provided are very good, and snow removal was excellent this year. I can always complain about garbage pickup, but it won't. I don't think it's going to solve too much. We could definitely. This pay-as-you-use garbage bag system is fine. I guess it works to a certain degree, but it's a little bit frustrating as a homeowner to have 4 bags of garbage and they'll only pick up 3. It's a little bit frustrating to me, but small
things. You can get another tag.
You can.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you guys for helping us out today with these remarks, and we've got at least 2 and maybe 3 things to look at in terms of improving things for our residents and our businesses. I'll leave you with something to think about, and maybe we can talk about it on another time. We have this landfill. They're incredibly expensive and almost impossible now to create new ones. And so we're kind of forced by circumstances to move to more and more diversion of garbage from landfill. And that's, you've certainly seen over the last 8 years, we've gone from a not very respectable level of diversion to over 60%, so that we're a bit of a leader in the area, in Canada for diversion. We're not the best, but we're right up there near the top. But we do need to get better, because by diversion, we've extended the life of the landfill out to maybe 2030 or longer. But that's coming faster than you think. So we've really got to continue to work hard at that. And that goes for everyone. And I thank everyone for joining us today. In a moment, we'll be back with 3 members of council to consider what we've learned from the residents today about what matters to Oakville, and we'll see how council can make a difference in these and other areas. Be right back. Thanks for joining us again. Joining me now to discuss today's topic is the councillor from the northeast part of Oakville, Councillor Tom Adams. He represents us on the Town of Oakville Council and on the Region of Halton Council. In fact, all three panel members today are on both councils. Cathy Duddeck, who represents the south central part of Oakville, Ward 2, if you go by numbers, and Ward 6 for Tom, if you go by numbers. And we also have Councillor Alan Johnston, Ward 1, number 1, Bronte, historic Bronte, also on both councillors. So I'm not sure where to begin, whether to ask, what do you hear from residents in terms of worry that we might miss as we drive the rate of increases of taxes down, or are they just overjoyed about that and they'll do without other things? Or alternatively, I could start with how low do you think we can go? Cathy, what's your take on it?
I'd say, similar to some of the ones in the previous segment, 0 is a great place to aim for. When you speak to most people in our ward and in the broader community, they're more interested in maintaining the services. They're concerned that they don't want to lose what they already have. And so once they start asking for additional perks, as we should say, once you put a tangible number to it and say that would impact your tax increase by such and such, it's okay. I don't really need it right now. Thanks.
So I take it that your residents are more inclined towards keeping the 753 direction.
Definitely, definitely.
But in terms of playing on the margins of that, we can fit within that regime. I mean, we can't, for example, bury their hydro wires. That would be an unbelievable expense. But there are things we could do, and I count on you, all the members of council, to bring to council those kinds of things that we do need to look at. Do you have any that have surfaced?
Well, actually, one that we've had in our ward, and I dare say Alan has in his, and Keith and Dave would have in theirs. In South Oakville, we've had a lot of problem with drainage in the older neighborhoods. As time has progressed, people have filled in these swales that you have at the rear of the property that used to divert water to the appropriate area. And now we're having to look at other means to get the water away from the homes and on the properties to where it should be, in the ditches, in the sewers and things of that nature. So we brought forward something at the council level, and we currently have our town CAO and our town staff addressing that specific issue in key areas.
Well, that's an interesting one. Tom, you're in the north, and we have the Swale filling in problem in the new subdivisions, and it might be a shock to Cathy if you tell her how we deal with that.
Oh, we have swale problems all over the place in all the new subdivisions.
Because we go in and make them unfill them, right?
That's right. When we have new subdivisions, we always have good professional discussions with the developers and builders about whose duty it is to make the system work, and so it is a big issue in the new areas as well as the old. And in fact, in the Falgarwood area, we do have some of the issues with ditches in the front, and that is an issue as well. So it's a town-wide issue. It's not only south of the QEW. But on the question of where should we go with our taxes, this council has had a long-running position of keeping them in line with inflation, and we've already set a goal for the next term to do the same thing and to maintain that direction. And I think that the general resident is looking for good value for the money that's being paid in property taxes, and that's really been the focus of this council. This past year, when we did our budgeting, one of the big things that we talked about was snow clearing. And in fact, one of the areas that we enhanced our service level was snow removal, and we dropped the threshold from 10 centimeters to 7.5 centimeters. So that, when we actually go out and do a local residential street for snow plowing. So,
and we still only increased taxes 0.7%,
which is the lowest.
It's like magic.
It's the lowest in 15 years, and I'm proud of that. I think it's been something that we've been working very hard for a very long time to get to that point. and it's not a overnight kind of thing. And there are always going to be costs that are going to increase. There are general wage increases, there are material increases, and so you can't avoid those costs if you want to maintain those services. And in another episode, you were talking about the big projects that we've been working on and the various big facilities that we've built over the last 7 or 8 years, the soccer building, the QE Park Center, the 16 Mile Creek. But you know, the thing that we're actually spending the most money on in the next 10 years in our capital budget is road resurfacing. We're spending over $80 million in the next 10 years maintaining infrastructure for existing residents. And that is, in fact, the biggest project that we'll be undertaking as the town of Oakville. So I think those are the kind of basic things that residents want to know that their local government is taking care of, keeping the lights on, keeping the roads working. That's basic stuff, and we've got to pay attention to it.
Well, you know, it's certainly one of the things I hear from our residents. You know, one of my themes excuse me, lately has been the tale of two cities and the little town that could. And one of the things people proudly tell me about is how the quality of our roads is better than our neighbors, and they appreciate that you know, there's less wear and tear on their car here than there. Alan, you play the role of Thrifty Scott in all things financial for us. And I just, I think it's got to be, the point here that we're chasing is that the snow clearing and, you know, the increase in snow clearing that we did was in the context of still bringing down the rate of increase of taxes. And it shows that we can, because of our constant and relentless pursuit of efficiency and value, we spend efficiency. We create efficiency that allows us to improve services. So in that context, what are you aware of that we need to be doing?
Well, what I hear from the public is they want us to spend the tax dollars wisely. You know, don't throw them after silly projects. So I think our budgeting process the last 8 years is focused on spending priorities that are important to the public, like infrastructure. We're one of the few municipalities that's a fully funded renewal infrastructure program, while we're reducing taxes because we're finding efficiencies. And like Tom says, you can't stay at zero forever. Inflation will eat away. People want the town to maintain its status as one of the best places to live. And there will be increases, but spend wisely.
Well, we're not at zero, and I don't myself really think we'll be able to hit zero because of the country has a national economic policy, fiscal policy of aiming for 2% inflation. The fact that we're not there is a different smoke, but in a sense, staying at inflation is a kind of zero, and that's certainly. Correct. I mean, for almost 8 years, I think we've been tracking to CPI. You're our budget chief.
Certainly in this last term, you were talking about the Canada-wide direction of a 2% inflation rate. Well, we've hit 2% over the last 4 years. In fact, just a little bit under 2% on average. And so we're really tracking exactly to CPI in terms of how we're dealing with our property taxes. And we're doing that while we're reinvesting in the infrastructure. I was talking about our road resurfacing budget as being one of the prime examples of that, but that's the need of a community to keep itself going. Now, Councillor Johnston was talking about our asset management plan being fully funded, and that's a very important element for a community. Think of us as a condo corporation, keeping the roof working and keeping the local pavement working. Some of our peers next door to us on either side, Mississauga and Burlington, both have infrastructure deficits, which over the next generation will cause enormous upheaval to their budgets over the next 2 decades. Mississauga is issuing debt, which is unheard of in Mississauga's recent history, and I think the residents are coming to grips with this new reality, and I'm not sure if I'd want to be a mayoral candidate in Mississauga after Hazel's run, because I think they're going to be facing really difficult financial decisions.
You know, the
Cathy?
other thing, pardon me, when you talk about infrastructure, it's more than just roads. Yes, roads is a huge component, but I know, for instance, in our ward, we've done considerable work on 14 Mile Creek restoration. So there's often a lot of infrastructure costs that we're funding that people don't see. until it's either too late because they say, why didn't you do this to protect our properties with a 100-year flood or something of that nature. So I'm really proud of how we're doing not only the roads but various other segments of our infrastructure.
You know, Cathy's really right. We're talking about stuff that's under the ground and you can't see the water system, for example. We also have the water and wastewater systems, which are dealt with over at the region. And the budgets there are ginormous. And the average resident won't know that it's broken until there's a flood in their basement. But you have to keep up with it, and you have to continue to do engineering studies to make sure that the quality of that infrastructure is kept up. Because otherwise you end up with 100-year-old pipes that are falling apart all at once, and the community can't afford to fix it.
Yeah. I'm very proud of what we've achieved. When I became mayor, Mississauga was famous for having no public debt paid for by taxpayers, and they had a lower tax rate than we in Oakville. And today, 8 years later, they've issued all kinds of public debt, dwarfs our remaining public debt, which we're relentlessly driving down. We're at like 10 million, and they've authorized 130 million
just this year.
And there's a huge swing between us and them over the 8 years. And their tax rate used to be appreciably lower than ours, and ours is now one of the lowest in the GTA, and below them and below our neighbor to the west. So those things are very proud-making. We couldn't have done them if we hadn't worked together the way we have. And I'm hoping that in the coming contest that the voters will see the value that they've received. I want to thank everyone for tuning in today to see how council matters in keeping Oakville on the right path to be Canada's most livable town. Thank you very much, and I hope we see you next time.